Becky. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about a working pantry in regard to a food stockpile. I've been making quite a few prepping videos lately. I actually have a whole playlist if you want to check that out. I'll link it for you in the description box. But how to start holding back a little bit of extra food and water and things that you may need no matter what the reason is. If there's a natural disaster, you lose your job, there's another shutdown, any supply issues, you'll be prepared because you're gonna have a little bit of extra food and water and things set aside. So in my stockpile video, one of my stockpile videos, I talked about my pantry in my kitchen is a working pantry. And I got some questions about that, like what it is and how it's different than regular stockpile storage. So I thought I would spend a little time in today's video explaining to you what a working pantry is and why it might benefit you in regard to setting up a food stockpile. But before you get any stockpile, any working pantry, any type of extra food or supplies, first you have to determine how much food and water and supplies that you want to have on hand for your family. Various organizations will tell you different things. Some places say to have a 3-day supply of food and water. Some places will say 3 months. It really just depends on you and how much you want to have. Obviously, 3 days is not going to get you very far. If there were even a power outage like what happened in Texas last year, or earlier this year, I can't remember, that lasted longer than 3 days. So a 3-day supply of food and water is nice and it's better than nothing, but it's not necessarily enough to help you with any significant issue that might come up. So that's up to you and your family. That is definitely based on your personal preferences, how much you want to prepare for, how long you want to prepare for, what your budget will allow you to prepare for, and what your space and your house will allow you to prepare for. You only can store how much you have room for. And even though you can be creative in where you keep things, at the end of the day, the size of your house is the size of your house. So you don't necessarily have as much room as somebody else to keep a bunch of extra food and supplies. So those things are things you're gonna have to think about first and foremost, how long you want to prepare for and where you're going to put it. With water, experts do say 1 gallon per person per day for any water you're gonna be consuming. So also put that in your calculations of how much water you want to have on hand for everybody in your family. So once you have figured out how long you want to kind of have your emergency stockpile last you with food and water and supplies, then you need to sit down and make a list of all the foods that your family eats and drinks on a regular basis. And also don't forget any allergies or sensitivities. Try your best. Now you may not always be able to accommodate those needs in an actual disaster, but since you're planning ahead, you should be able to prepare for, you know, gluten-free or dairy-free or any of those allergy restrictions as best you can. Make a list of those as well, so that you have on paper everything that your family will eat on a daily basis that you want to start stockpiling for your working pantry. So a working pantry and how it fits into food storage and stockpiling is basically a food stockpile that you use on a daily basis, or at least most of it. So in my case, I have a couple different places in my kitchen where I keep food that we eat on a daily basis. Most of it stays in my, we call it a pantry. It's basically just a long skinny cabinet. That's pretty much where all of our canned goods and some other things stay. And I am constantly grabbing those things every single day to use in meals that we eat every single day. But then I am replacing those constantly with food that I call overstock from my retail days. It's basically food over and above what you have in front of you to use. It's food that you have stored away. So as soon as I grab something out of my pantry to make for dinner that night, I am checking my stockpile, refilling my pantry, putting it right back so that I can use it the next time. So you may have an actual walk-in pantry that you can do this with. You may have just a cabinet like me or a couple cabinets. You may keep your food in a Lazy Susan. You know, however the food is set up in your kitchen and where you access on a daily basis, that is essentially your working pantry. And as you use food from those places in your kitchen, you are immediately replacing it with food from your overstock food stockpile. If I were to be out of those items in my long-term food storage stockpile, then that's when I know I need to add that to my list to be watching for a sale or pick it up the next time that I see it so that I can replenish my stockpile. So it's a constant rotation of using it, replacing it, using it, replacing it over and over and over. That's one reason why it's important to stockpile food that your family will eat on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, because you're already going to be using this on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And if you buy a bunch of stuff your family's not going to eat, it's just going to sit somewhere on a shelf. Nobody's going to eat it. And even in an emergency situation, nobody's going to want to eat it. It's going to be a lot more pleasant for you if you have food on hand that your family actually will eat and enjoys on a daily basis. So that's really important, to make sure that you're purchasing food for your kitchen and for your stockpile that you will eat on a daily basis. So most of my long-term food storage at this point in time is in the back of our living room closet. I showed this in a recent video. I'll link it. It's in my prepping playlist. But basically I had to be kind of creative with where I'm keeping a lot of our extra food, because I don't have a walk-in pantry. I don't want to put any food in our garage for various reasons. I don't have a basement. I don't have anywhere really just ideal to keep extra food like some people do. So I had to be creative and use the back of a closet that was kind of hard to get to, but it's still accessible if I need to. There was a shelf in there that I cleared out what was in there, and I'm using that right now for extra food storage. So to help me keep track of what's in my extra food storage, since it's not in the kitchen, it's not daily, you know, visibly in front of my eyes, of like, I'm not constantly seeing, oh, I need to go get corn at the store, or, you know, this cereal at the store. I'm not constantly seeing what's in that long-term food storage. I have a stockpile inventory checklist. I shared this in a recent video as well. It is a work in progress with me, but I keep it hanging on the inside of my pantry door so that I know what is in my long-term food storage in the back of the living room closet. So like I said, if I reach in there to grab a can of black beans and a can of corn, I can see without going in the back of that closet from my inventory checklist how many cans of corn or how many cans of black beans that I already have in that food storage area. So that really helps me keep organized, and it is a work in progress. I'm constantly adding things to this stockpile checklist as I'm kind of improving my system and reorganizing things. So it's definitely a work in progress, but it's a free printable that I can link for you guys in the description box. You can make one as well. I put it in a page protector. Right now I'm using dry erase marker, so that as things change or as I add categories or different types of food, I can constantly change this inventory checklist. But it's still a great way for me to see what I have kind of that's out of sight, but I can see on a piece of paper what I have what I have available to me at all times. So make sure that when you are putting food in your long-term storage area, and then when you're replacing it in your pantry, you are using first what you put in first. So that can of beans you bought 6 months ago is the very first can of beans you're going to grab when you go to replace the beans in your working pantry. So first in, first out. That way you're making sure that you're using the oldest food first, and the newer things you're purchasing that have an expiration date that's farther out is going to be used last. And like I mentioned in one of my prepping videos, you don't have to have a huge garage, you don't have to have a basement, you don't have to have a deep freeze. You know, although those things are nice, not everybody has those things. And so you can be creative with where you put things in your home. Where are you keeping these extra items? If you have a basement or under beds in an extra guest room, in the closet, you know, you may have to be a little bit creative and unconventional with where you put things. But if you walk around your house and you really look, you will find room that you can put things, some extra cans, some bottles of water, you know, different things like that, where you can keep it all throughout your house. It doesn't have to be in your kitchen, but that it's accessible to you if you need it. And that's why that food stockpile checklist will be helpful for you as well, I think, because even though you may not want to go climbing under the beds or in closets to look for something, if you have on this checklist what you have in those places, you're gonna know without having to go look, oh, I've got, you know, 6 bottles of water and, you know, 10 cans of soup, you know, whatever it is. So highly recommend the inventory checklist. It has helped me a lot with setting up my stockpile. So I think you guys will find it helpful as well. So recapping, a working pantry is just basically meaning that you are using anywhere you keep your food anyway on a regular basis, whether that be a pantry or a pantry closet, or, you know, wherever you keep your food in the kitchen that you use on a daily basis. You are using that food and then you're replacing it with food from your stockpile. You are eating that food and then you're immediately replacing it with food from your stockpile. And then when your stockpile gets low, you're, you know, constantly replacing your stockpile as well. So it's a constant flow of using it, replacing it, repurchasing it, using it, replacing it, repurchasing it. So that way you're using what you've got in your stockpile. You're not having things sitting on the shelves for years and years and years and going bad. And for me, it's also meaning less trips to the grocery store, less grocery orders, because for the most part, now that I've gotten a lot of what we use on a daily basis, I'm not having to run to the store at the last minute to get, you know, a can of peas or something like that because I didn't realize I didn't have it. I have pretty much every single thing we possibly could need to make a meal. I already have it on hand, plus a little bit more. So it's been really helpful for me, especially with my smaller kitchen kind of cabinet situation. it's been a really helpful way for me to have a stockpile and be adding more and more food to our stockpile without taking up a lot of extra room. So it's been really useful. So I thought I would share this with you guys and kind of give you a little bit of a glimpse into what a working pantry is and how it can work for you. So I hope it was helpful. If it was, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to check out my prepping playlist. It's linked for you. There's quite a few videos in there already, even though I just started making prepping videos like 2 months ago. There's quite a few videos in there for you guys already to check out, and hopefully will be helpful as well. If this one was, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. And let me know in the comments what you would like to see in the future. If you want to see more prepping videos, what would you like me to share with you all? So leave that in the comments for me. That would be really helpful. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.